Hey guys, Tom here at Artec Industries. I'm the technical support manager. Today's topic, we're going to be going over axle swap kits and axle trusses. One of the main reasons someone would purchase one of these axle trusses or axle swap kits is to help strengthen your axle. A unsupported axle going down the road or even off-road, the axle tubes flex, which can lead to welds failing, axle tubes spinning, which will rotate your pinion up or down depending on which direction you're going in, and can lead to other internal broken parts. So this axle truss here, once you actually put this on the vehicle, it's going to help strengthen the housing by welding to the housing as well as the axle tubes, makes it nice and rigid and reduces the chance of an axle failure. What I have on the table here is the first truss that I want to go over. This is the Ford 8.8 axle swap kit, part number TR8801. This is designed to put a late model Ford Explorer axle into your 97 to 06 Jeep TJ or LJ. This truss is all made of 1/4 inch steel. All these brackets here put every bracket into OEM position. It further reinforces the housing as well as takes all the math out of the equation when it comes to doing the axle swap kit, figuring out where you're going to put all your components. This one here I have tack welded up just for display purposes, but let's go a little further into detail and you can see every component about this. The nice thing is it has heavy duty gussets throughout the entire part of the truss. As far as the upright pieces, the gussets here, the side gussets, and even incorporate the upper control arm and track bar bracket as part of the gussets as main structure of this truss, strengthening up these common failure points on the axle, as well as makes the housing nice and rigid. The Ford Explorer 8.8 is notorious for the rosette welds failing and spinning axle tubes. Welding this truss to the housing and the axle tubes keeps that from happening. This truss also comes with all kinds of bracketry. Comes with heavy duty upper control arm, and on the driver's side it's going to have a heavy duty upper control arm and track bar combination bracket. We also have lower link brackets here that are 1/4 inch steel. We have shock mounts here as well as the OEM sway bar mounts. So you're not losing any of your factory components with this. There's some other options as well for triangulated suspension, high clearance lower link brackets, as well as a high clearance shock bracket if you're trying to gain some more clearance also. Now that you've learned about this Ford 8.8 axle swap kit, we're going to move on to our legacy truss line. So what I have on the table here is one of our legacy trusses. This specific truss is for a Dodge Dana 60 for your old W series truck. We also offer these for your Ford axles from 78 to 79, as well as your 85 to 98 kingpin and ball joint pre-Super Duty axles, your 99 to 04 or 2005 to current Super Duty axles as well. It is a do-it-yourself truss where you have to trim and fit around the housing. So say you want to run it on like a Land Cruiser axle, Land Rover axle. We get a lot of guys actually use them on GM Dana 44s as well. But we also even have these legacy style trusses for your Ford Super Duty axles from 99 to current. The upper plate here is 3/8 of an inch thick steel. All these gussets that you see are 1/4 inch steel. These axles actually feature 2 plates, so you have a front plate and a back plate to really strengthen up, as well as the multiple gussets, so you're not going to get any flexing or anything like that. One of the great things about this legacy truss line is it's a great foundation for building a custom suspension. I've got some universal brackets over here on the side, and to kind of just show you some basic placement give you an idea of how you can set this up for yourselves as well as your customers. If you want to set it up for a 3-link, you can mount it up here on the driver's side, or you can mount one on the passenger side. You do this is kind of like a parallel 4-link setup. Lower links would be here on the bottom. You can see the 0-degree angle, they're straight. You can change them off to about 10 degree. You can move them out in towards the center. This could be like a single or double triangulated setup like this. And then you can even do like a rear mounted 3-link bracket. If you want to change some of your other geometry like anti-squat and anti-dive, we do have our BR1067 bracket that has 2 holes for adjustment. Can be used the same way as well as our BR1070. This will have 3 inches of holes. So you can really set up your suspension, but that'll be a completely different video. So that's one of my favorite things. It just makes it really simple to set up a custom suspension with using these trusses when you're doing axle swaps. You guys are probably wondering what this big thing is on the front of the table. This is our ram mount. This specific one's for a kingpin forward axle, but it is designed to hold a PSC 2.5 inch or 2 3/4 inch full hydraulic steering ram. It'll weld to the inside of this. This will weld to the axle, further reinforce the axles. It's also available with a combination to come with a truss as well, where some of the gussets in this will actually replace some of the gussets on the truss. It works as a skid plate, protects the hydraulic steering ram. A lot of customers actually use these to kind of hit boulders and go up over boulders and things like that with them. They're pretty popular with the buggy and rock bouncer crowds, but it's something else that will complement this Legacy Series truss line. The construction of all the ram mounts is going to be 1/4 inch steel. They're going to have multiple gussets, anywhere between 4 to 5 gussets depending on the axle. They also feature a 1/4 inch door here with a removable panel that you're actually going to be able to still service your diff and things like that once this is welded on the vehicle. So we thought about that, and they're great. It's just a great product that complements everything else that we do here. So we have here on the table our more Legacy Series trusses. This big one here is for a 14-bolt rear axle. You can see I have multiple link options up here on the top, just from universal brackets. If you want to mount coilovers, ORIs, or air shocks to it, just mount some tabs here down towards the end as far out as you can possibly get them, and you can do that. If you don't have enough space, we have another line for you as well, which is going to be like our modular line or short line. This particular one here is for 8.8 axle for like a triangulated 8.8 axle swap. Just like the other Legacy lines, it has dual gussets here on the bottom of it. This is all 1/4 inch steel. The 1-ton swap stuff is going to be 3/8 top with 1/4 inch plates. But it's only about 31 inches wide, so if you have really tight packaging, a lot of guys will run these on like Samurais, as well as CJs and YJs, things like that. They're doing axle swaps and converting to coil springs away from the leaves. Like we have this universal coil and shock bracket here. It'll just butt up right here, weld up against the edge of the truss on the axle tube. You can sit there and just pitch these wherever you need them for your drive line angle or however you need to place your shocks. It just gives you a really good option as far as setting up your suspension. The combinations are endless. Like a lot of people will take like our 14-bolt modular truss, looks really similar to this, and they'll go out and buy this like TR 1005 or TR 1004 that we offer. This is a modular truss end. Do a little bit of trimming here in this gusset, and it'll basically line up right against the edge of the truss. All directly in line. Like obviously it's not cut and trimmed, so I can't show you how it would work, but a lot of guys will do that, use these two combinations and make like a steering 14-bolt axle for just a massive axle. It was really popular with the rock bouncer crowd. All right guys, that was the Legacy Series truss line overview. We're going to roll in now to the current generation, which is the Apex Series truss. This here is the Apex Series axle armor kit for the front of a JL. This is an awesome design. The best part is it's designed to reduce welding time, which makes welding costs a lot cheaper for the consumer, as well as it distributes the heat throughout the center line of the axle tube, unlike some of our previous generations with the Legacy Series. It's a lot lighter, a lot tighter packaged and cleaner, so it's just better in every possible aspect. Best of all, we had it patented. The Apex Series trusses for the stock axles are going to be 1/8 inch thick. I know what you guys are thinking, that's really thin, but the patented peak design that we have is actually stronger and more rigid than the Legacy Series trusses, so it's better. One of the other key features that we're really excited about is it sits lower on the axle. So where it sits along the axle, this is basically along the center line of the axle tube, and there's a lot less welding. So you're just welding a couple spots here and there every few inches. It's going to reduce the heat, so you reduce the chances of warping your housing, keeping it more rigid, and it keeps the material more dense, because the more heat you put into the material, the softer it gets. So it's going to just be a much stronger package. And this is going to be for kind of like the intermediate piece between the housing on the passenger side tube and upper control arm. Then it goes to the part that will sandwich between the upper control arm and your coil spring bucket. We even have a little gusset here that goes underneath the coil spring bucket. And then we have our C gussets here that will weld and bolt on to the axle as well. So it's literally gusseted from the front, from C to C. And it also goes along with our JL 4000 CAD shield for the front axle disconnect as well. So I have here is going to be the rear truss. This is actually a JK specific truss, apex truss. Fits right between the coil spring buckets. There's a hole for the breather tube. So we thought about all of that, and there's still enough space up here for upper link bracket that you can put on here for our rear 3-link. We are going to be coming out with one for a triangulated setup shortly as well. It's still going to be even beefier version of this truss. We also have them for 1-ton swaps. So front and back, everything's going to be a nice uniform design, still dimpled, still has minimum welding around the housing, keeps everything nice and rigid, axle straight, and you don't have to worry about any failures. This here is the big brother to the axle armor kit. This is the Apex series 1-ton swap kit for the JL and JK Wranglers. Some of the key benefits of this are smaller packaging, so it's easier to ship out. It's also lighter. It weighs half as much as our previous generation trusses and a lot less welding. So labor costs are going to be down, as well as getting you on the trail faster. So now I'm going to go through here and start unboxing parts. Right here is going to be one of your lower control arm brackets. This particular control arm bracket is for the passenger side. Now we do have a specific driver side bracket where it's actually kicked in a little bit here on the side for the driver to go around the casting on that Super Duty axle, because we know how there's not really much axle tube. So once you do your trimming, this will fit in, get your lower control arms right where they need to go. Like all the other 1-ton swap kits and things like that, we also made this so all the math is taken out of the equation for you. You get great geometry with these kits where you can essentially get your axles ready to go under the vehicle in a solid weekend. We also, right here are some more parts. These are the bases to your coil spring buckets with the brackets. These are more parts for your coil spring buckets, as well as some brackets for sway bar taps, gussets, and track bar bracket pieces as well. And this is also for the coil bucket. So it's a bunch of parts, but we made it so it packages real tight for you. Like I previously said, with shock mounts, more coil spring buckets, and then you have the heart of the system. And this is going to be your 3/16 inch Apex truss that sits on the passenger side axle tube. So I'm going to go over a loose assembly of the Super Duty swap kit just to show you how easy it is. First step, you're going to go through, take your gussets here. They will pop right in here to the key slots of the truss to help strengthen it up, and as increases the rigidity of the truss. And once it's in your axle, you'll just pop it right over top like so. So this is how the bracket will sit. Then you can, another little gusset for your control arm bracket. These can be a little tricky to put in sometimes, but it's not too bad. But they'll go key into place, and upper control arm bracket will go into position. This is for a 4-link style bracket. We have a C-shaped bracket as well that will fit right in for that. Then we have a track bar bracket. It's a 2-piece bracket, just tabs in together. Make sure when you're welding this up, have your track bar here so you can just do a tack, then pull your track bar out and fully weld it up. But it'll slip in front of the truss here and keys in right to the corner of this coil bucket, which is kind of like a 3-piece or 4-piece assembly. You have the base plate, another lower plate, where a lower plate will key right in here. A nice little thing about this is it adds rigidity to the bottom of the coil spring bucket. This here will connect the coil spring bucket to the C on the axle. That way strengthens it from pretty much C to C on there. Your coil spring bucket, there is a little keyway here that will key this into place, and you have the welding, the top part that will weld in here. And you see here, that's probably about a minute or two, and majority of the truss is assembled. You're probably wondering what this piece right here is. This is what we call the top cap. It will sit on top of the truss and utilizes the bracket for a 4-link. So you weld this to the truss over top the coil bucket, and then you will weld it right into the edge of the coil spring. So this truss is now set up for a 4-link. This cap's optional. If you're doing a 3-link, you don't need that. A lot of people will still get the top cap in addition to the 3-link, just to further increase the rigidity of the housing. So it makes welding really fast, super simple, and it's just something that we wanted to make easier for all of our customers and consumers as well. I call this the big brother of the axles. This is for your big boys wanting tons, 40s, 42s, 43s. Like, this thing is designed to handle abuse. Instead of 1/8 inch steel, it's 3/16 inch steel. Still the Peak design that's patented. It also has the dimple dies for additional strength. It is gusseted internally as well. It's designed still to sit nice and low to the axle, and it'll go right against the center line, reducing the heat going into the housing, keeping the housing stronger. And it's the total package. It's something that's designed for people that are going to be out there abusing their vehicles, or even just want peace of mind of never having to break an axle. All right guys, you've already seen the Apex line for the stock armor kits for the stock axles, and then you've seen the Super Duty 1-ton swap Apex kit as well. Well, here's the biggest one of all, the Apex Basic Swap Kit for the Ultimate Dana 80 axle. Everything's still 1/4 inch steel, all made to weld to the center line of the axle tube to keep heat down, speed up welding time. Still packages nice and tight, super lightweight for something this size, all keys into place. It's just super simple to install, and it's probably one of the greatest things, and you can use it with or without a truss, which I'll show you now. All right guys, say you have an Ultimate Dana 80 housing kicking around and you're trying to figure out, man, I really want to swap this into my Jeep and want a truss. Well, guess what? Artec Industries has got you covered. This is a 1/4 inch thick steel truss. It's an Apex truss for an Ultimate Dana 80. And guess what? We're the official truss supplier for Dana with the Ultimate 80 housing. So we have the Apex Ultimate 80 truss kit on here. And if you want to swap this axle into your late model Jeep, don't worry, we got you covered as well with our basic swap kits, which you saw earlier. Those with a slight modification will work with this truss. So it's going to be supported from spindle to spindle. All the brackets are still going to key into place, making this a super simple swap for you to do, and you will have the ultimate Dana 80 axle. That concludes our axle truss segment. I just briefly skimmed into that topic. We have a lot more on our website. Head on over to artecindustries.com. Check out all the offerings that we have for different vehicles and axles, as well as if you have any other questions, reach out to us at sales@artecindustries.com with those questions. Me and the guys will be able to get those answered, and thanks for watching. Have a great day.